Wife sandwich. Older woman, younger woman, older man. Threesome Erotica by Giselle Renarde. Read by the author. I can't believe I'm actually going to tell this story. I'm still pretty amazed that it happened at all. You see, my younger sister Rachel played soccer for her high school's team. I had finished my studies and entered the workforce by that time, but I would often attend her games to cheer her on and all that. Well, I actually did more reading than cheering, but the fact that I was sitting in the bleachers at all meant a lot to my little sister. I noticed Steve at the first game I attended, partly because the sunlight was reflecting off his bald head, and partly because he was the only other person there who was sitting alone. Steve was the father of one of the girls on Rachel's team, which meant that I got to see him at every game. I'm generally shy and cautious around new people, but I took to Steve right away because he seemed rather shy as well. He was an intellectual sort with a toned physique, and I've always had a thing for older men who work out. At first, Steve and I would discuss the books that we were reading. Eventually, our conversations became more intimate. Steve told me how lonely he felt in his marriage. Steve worked from home as a technical writer, and he was fairly deprived of human interaction for that reason. He told me that he had always looked forward to 6 o'clock when his executive wife, Helen, arrived home from work. Over the past 5 years, though, Helen had been working later and later into the evenings, and when she finally arrived home, she was always too exhausted to pay him any attention. I felt very close to Steve because he had confided in me, and it soon became apparent that an intense attraction was developing between the two of us. At the end of each soccer game, Steve and I would go our separate ways, he with his daughter and I with my sister. One day, after our team had achieved a 4-1 victory, I wrote my address down on a scrap of paper and invited Steve to come over on Friday afternoon, since I didn't have to work. He knew what the invitation implied. I remember Steve staring down at my address and saying that he would have to think about it. When Steve arrived on my doorstep that Friday at 2 o'clock, I was overjoyed. I really wasn't sure if he would come or not. I took the man straight into my bedroom, stripped off his clothes, and rode his cock until he flipped me onto my back and pummeled me with penetrations. It was the most frenzied, passionate sex I had ever experienced. I'm now convinced that bookworms have the best sex. Steve and I continued seeing each other every Friday afternoon. By the time he arrived at my house, we were already so hot for each other that we almost never remembered to lock the front door before heading to the bedroom, or the living room, or the kitchen, or wherever. One Friday in May, 2 years into the relationship, Steve sat on my sofa while I devoured his hard cock. Suddenly, I heard the front door open, and I just about had a heart attack. Who would just walk into my house unannounced? I froze, thinking it might be a family member or a friend of mine, but it wasn't. It was a stylish woman with short, blondish hair and a professional demeanor. I had never seen her before. I had no idea who she was, but Steve certainly did.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?